Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcast.
G'day and welcome to Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical podcast that takes Godsmack and Godspell, puts it in a blender, mixes it up, and then throws it out because it tastes like shit. I'm your host for this week, Aaron, and I'm actually flying solo. I've kicked Gareth out of the studio. I'm joined by my mate, the lead singer of Brave Today, Ryan Touzell. G'day, welcome to the show. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing quite well, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, as scatterbrained as usual.
Of course.
Nothing different there. So for our listeners at home, I've invited you onto the show today because obviously you're the lead singer of Sydney band Brave Today. You should all go out and check their music on Spotify, iTunes, and where all good music is sold. So I figured we're going to get rid of Gareth this week, and I'm going to torture one of my friends, somebody who hasn't gone through 10, 11 episodes of musical theatre by now. Yeah, we actually met in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
We did too.
I don't think we were still in port in Honolulu. I do know I met a couple of people while we were still in port, but I think we met on the second or third night of 19 nights sailing across the Pacific Ocean.
That's correct.
In
Yes.
it was about 4 years ago, I think. And
5 years ago, actually.
oh yeah, it's 20. Oh
Get your head together, mate.
yeah. It was 5 years ago, wasn't it?
It was,
Oh,
mate.
Shit.
2016, I do believe.
Sorry, listeners at home, but obviously you're going to have to listen to these fun, exciting anecdotes from our holiday. We sailed across the Pacific. We went to Bora Bora, which is on the equator and fucking hot, and Tahiti, Moorea, Hawaii, obviously, and then we arrived in New Zealand.
Yes.
And it was fucking cold.
Yes, we went from 1 degree to the next, didn't we?
We did, and I'll tell you what, my jacket went from one person to the next too, because I was the only person on that cruise who had a friggin' jacket.
Yes. If there's one thing I remember from being on the cruise, actually, mate, it was you wearing that jacket, and I do believe a Jurassic Park t-shirt.
Yes, my Japanese Jurassic Park t-shirt.
And let's refer back to episode 9 of your podcast where you were discussing with Gareth about your drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is no better time to drink than on a cruise ship, mate, because that's all you can do on a cruise ship.
Tell me about it.
And if there's one thing I remember, it was meeting you and you thinking that the cruise ship wasn't moving when we were in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, when we were in fact moving.
It wasn't. We were not. That smoke was going straight up. You saw it with your very own eyes, and when you are moving, smoke moves backwards.
Is that the case, is it now, mate? Because when I looked over the edge of the deck, I could have sworn there were waves crashing against the boat.
Against it, but
Yeah.
but not going past. We weren't passing these waves. They weren't going. I know what it looks like when we're moving on a ship. I've done it that many times, and I'm sure you have too. And we weren't moving.
Listen, mate,
We were not moving.
this is something I have not let go of in the last 5 years, alright? I can't sleep at night because of this. This is a debate that we're going to have to come back to when I see your face.
It is. I swear to God. And you know what? The funny thing was when I went back on that ship a year and a half later. I obviously I completely forgotten about that, but I was standing up on that deck. I think it was deck 13, or was it? Or right outside the nightclub.
Yeah, one of those decks, mate.
And I'm standing there at 3 o'clock in the morning or something, and all I heard was Aaron. And I looked down, and one of the crew members, one of the deckhands, had remembered me from that trip in Hawaii, and he ran up the stairs and gave me this big hug. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Oh.
It was just like, "Whoa, how do you remember me?" It's like, "You would dance with us,
Oh, God.
so how are we going to forget you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So obviously, still, I dance with the deckhands at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning while they're sweeping the deck, but.
Yes.
That cruise, actually, we both made a bit of a splash because obviously the listeners at home would have probably laughed and scoffed at the fact that I got up and did a performance on stage, which you were actually in the audience for.
Yep. I do believe it was a performance by the great Eminem.
Yes, it was.
Lose Yourself.
In front of a whole bunch of 70-year-olds. Yes.
Yes.
A slightly censored version.
I think we lost a couple of those elderly people that night. I think I think the morgue at the bottom of the ship might have been full after your performance, but but it was a great performance, mate. So
Thank you. Thank you. No, I didn't do that seriously. There is no way in
I've
hell.
got to stop you right there. I think that you got all the lyrics perfectly right, and you did a great job of that. And that is something that I reckon people should applaud.
Well, yeah, they did. I ran the fuck off stage during that applause. Like, I'm not standing...
Straight to the bar.
I'm not standing here and looking at these people. Yes, I did. I'd already had a couple of whiskeys over lunch.
Oh, yes.
Because my nerves were shot. I was just doing it as a joke, and obviously, like, we'd heard you sing at karaoke, and you have, when you're singing just normally, an amazing voice on you, and I really think you should follow that up a lot more, but that's another point. So, and then you did the celebrity lookalike, which the listeners at home may be interested to know that Ryan was compared to Jared Leto.
No, it was Johnny Depp, mate.
Oh, was it? Who was... Sorry. I thought... No, it was... Sorry. It was me that thought you looked like Jared Leto, and I think I said, why isn't it Jared Leto?
That's what 5am tequilas will do to you, mate. They'll make...
Well, yeah, that's true. Do you remember we used to get those massive feasts from room service? We'd get like 10 or 12 plates and just bring it up to the nightclub deck.
Oh, big time. We did too, didn't we? Honestly, mate, if there's like there's very little that I can remember from that 3-week cruise, because when you have alcohol at your feet from 5am in the morning through till 3am the next morning, it's kind of hard to avoid. So,
it is. So, anyways, we'll cruise into Broadway now. That's a really terrible pun and segue.
Yes.
So, this week, I decided to give you a musical that Gareth actually had mentioned that he already hates.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is one of my favourites. Again, he wants to shit all over the things I love. I never, ever do that to him.
Of course.
Ever.
No way.
Of course not. No, I'm completely innocent. So what we'll do is we'll run through your thoughts and discuss Little Shop, and then we'll move on to metal, because then we can...
Yes.
We won't be restrained by You're our first metal guest, so...
Yep, and I gotta say, bringing a metalhead into a show like this to talk about Broadway, that certainly is a strong flex of yours, mate.
Yep.
When I first came into this, I thought that I'd be, I thought that I'd have a lot to say negatively about Broadway. But when you gave me Little Shop of Horrors, it was a bit of a different story. You know, a 1960s American horror / comedy, directed by the great Roger Corman, and a musical by Alan Menken, and the lyrics by Howard Ashman.
The great Howard Ashman.
Yes, who I've never heard of before this. I gotta say, mate, I have to first say that, thank you for showing me the soundtrack to Little Shop of Horrors, because I haven't had a decent sleep in a while, mate, so... But... No.
Hang on. I kicked Gareth out of the studio.
Yes, you did. No, look, going to a live Broadway musical is and never has been something to kick off my bucket list. You'd have better chance seeing me watch paint dry on a building across the street with a pair of binoculars. However, I was actually surprised by the production soundtrack. Each song told a part of the ongoing story that left me wanting to hear more of where the story was going. And it was easy to follow, it wasn't hard to understand, and you got a really great idea of each character. I thought that the music tied in really well with the lyrics, and honestly, there's not much I have to say hatefully about the performance that I watched. I had to bash my head against a wall when I almost shed a tear hearing Audrey dying in her partner's arms, and then he fed her to the plant. If there's one thing I've got to say, the whole concept of the story being about a flesh-eating plant that feeds off human blood and human flesh, that's metal. That's really brutal. It's far... It is, isn't it? Don't you think? It's the metal music that I listen to, most people would probably listen to it, and without understanding the words, they'd think that entails the same sort of material. But really, the music I listen to is more about, dealing with harsh breakups or, how screwed the world is and how we can do better, and mental health issues. So when I saw this story, it was brutal, man. So I give it a solid 2.5 out of 5, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would never catch me dead watching a Broadway musical, as I said, but listening to the soundtrack was quite pleasing, to be honest with you.
The one I gave you in particular was the 2003 Broadway production.
Yes.
So that has Hunter Foster in it.
Look, mate, I loved the association between each character. I loved how you got the shy, hapless Seymour running a plant store, and finding out that a new plant that he's created feeds off human blood. That was great to begin with. And then the woman that he was in love with, she was dating an abusive husband. And I absolutely loved how he took a job as a dentist so he could inflict pain on people in a legal sort of way.
Oren Scrivello.
That's the one. And Steve Martin, you couldn't have picked a better character to play, a better actor, I should say, to play Oren. Steve Martin is a killer at that. So, and people like John Candy and Rick Moranis, or am I saying that right? Rick Moranis? Moranis?
Either way.
Either or.
Who doesn't love a good Moranis?
I do love a good Moranis every such morning. No, let's cut that out, shall we? But no, this one was a hard one to study, honestly, because there's been so many remakes of the show, and there's so much to look into, But I found the soundtrack.
It's very popular.
It is. When I first heard Little Shop of Horrors, when people told me about it, I thought, oh, that sounds kind of cute. But when I actually looked into the story, when you shed away all the comedic stuff and all of the music and all that, it's a really brutal and very dark storyline. So
it is. I mean, it's about domestic abuse.
Well, yeah. Exactly, and then the dentist, who's addicted to nitrous oxide, dies of asphyxiation. And then, because Seymour's too much of a pussy to do the job himself, he just lets Oren die right there in the chair and then feeds him to his plant, Audrey II. And that's brutal, mate. That is brutal.
Yeah, this is one show, I don't think there is any shows out there, and there's very few movies out there where the entire cast ends up dead at the end of it.
Well, that's it.
Because even Seymour ends up dead.
Yes, but they had multiple endings to this, did they not, Aaron?
For the film, because they originally filmed the musical ending, and it didn't test well.
Yes.
So test audiences who probably didn't know the musical, because it was only a few years old at the time of the movie, they probably didn't know the musical and weren't familiar with that's how it ends, and so they've basically shit all over it and said, no, that's a depressing ending. Seymour at least should survive.
Yeah.
But no, in the musical, everyone comes out at the end as a zombie, basically, and sings the final song.
Wow.
Which is the whatever they offer you, don't feed the plants. Because obviously Audrey II, the Triffid, had enticed Seymour, had peer pressured him and dangled the keys to the kingdom in front of him, basically saying, you can have everything you want if you feed me.
Yes.
There's a real dark story of addiction in that.
Oh, yeah.
When you replace Audrey II with something else, drugs or something like that, or a drug dealer.
Well, in the original 1960s movie, it was Audrey Jr., wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So Audrey was his wife. I'm correct, yes?
Yeah. The original movie is very different.
It is, yes.
The original movie has Seymour's mother in it. It's very funny. And the funny thing about that was, though, that film was made in about 3 days because Roger Corman was in between films, I think it was, and he had use of the set for 3 more days. So instead of paying for, or they'd already paid for it, instead of wasting that money, they came in, shot a film in 3 days, and then in the end, he forgot to copyright it.
Okay. So
that's one film that is so well known, but is actually in the public domain. So you'll get tons of cheap copies of it on DVD and VHS or whatever, Blu-ray, because everyone owns it, basically. It's in the public domain.
Yeah.
And obviously then it spawned this musical, which, as you mentioned, Alan Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, who then, from this musical, got noticed by Disney to do The Little Mermaid.
Yes, I did. I saw that.
And
yes.
then they did Beauty and the Beast, and during that, Howard Ashman had the idea to do Aladdin, and he obviously, he died
41 years old.
before that could happen.
From 1950 to 1991, I do believe. Is that correct?
Yep. There's a beautiful documentary on Disney Plus for those people out there that are interested in Disney history and the renaissance of the late 80s, early 90s of Disney. A lot of this was to do with Menken and Ashman. Very little to do with Jeffrey Katzenberg or Michael Eisner, no matter how much they would like to take credit for it, for their egos. Sorry, I'm a bit of a Disney buff.
You are.
So yeah, but they were, and think about it, I was born in 85, so The Little Mermaid, I was 4 years old and onwards, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old for those movies that they released. That was my childhood in a lot of ways, along with, and all the musicals I loved, but, and all the other things I had in my life, but that was the Disney Renaissance period, and it had everything to do with the music.
Of course, yes, it does. And you know what? Here's the thing about me, mate. I might play in a metal band and stuff, but I've got too much of an open mind. One day I might be listening to Ed Sheeran and having a cry in the corner of my bathroom, and then the next day I'm listening to, Cradle of Filth or, what have you, the heaviest of metal. It's an open mind for me, so I've always appreciated musical theatre, but I've never gone out of my way for it. So, yeah.
You've never been dragged into it.
No, never have I been dragged into this type of situation, so...
Well, I went easy with you on your first go, because I did think about it. Now, Little Shop is one musical that I'd love to get you to play Oren Scrivello, because I think you would kick ass at that part, and I would love to get just certain metal musicians and do a heavier metal version.
Well, that's exactly what I've thought, Aaron. I was wondering to myself, what would it be like to have a musical that was metal based?
Oh, there are.
Are there?
There are.
Are there actually?
Yeah. Repo the Genetic Opera.
No, I'm gonna have to jot this down.
Yes, I'll send you. I'll try to. I'll find a link to the album. Hopefully, it's on Spotify. But there was a movie version that they did. We talked about it in our first episode because Paris Hilton's face falls off in it. And it's such a wonderful moment. And she's actually really good in it. I stand by her in that part. I'm willing to put my chin up and proudly say that I enjoyed Paris Hilton singing in a movie. The world is going to end any time soon.
Wasn't Paris Hilton in that Wax movie where she had her head destroyed?
House of Wax, yes.
House of Wax, that's the one, yes.
That was filmed in Australia, up in...
It was too. Australia has suffered, yes. Australia has suffered in the music industry, movie industry.
We have.
But every now and again, they've got some bangers. They do.
Yeah. But just on Little Shop, because we'll round that up, because obviously you seem to enjoy it, and seem to see that its potential and stuff. The music, I don't know if you got this, but the music was actually inspired by Motown. Yeah, so that's why you have the three, I kind of, Ronette, Chiffon, and Crystal.
Yes.
If anyone listening, if I got those three names wrong, I got it right? Cool. Hey, I did Little Shop of Horrors in 1998. I was 13 years old, so it's been a while.
Wow.
Although obviously I listen to it all the time, and I love the movie version. But I wasn't a lead role in that. We had an ensemble because it was a school performance. And actually, Logan Fewster, who is the lead singer of former band Death in Bloom, who does our theme song for our podcast. Thank you very much, guys, for letting us use your song. Logan and I were in that production together. So I actually have a photo.
Seriously?
Yep, I have a photo of 13-year-old metalhead Logan Fewster from Death in Bloom, dressed up as a street alien or something. I can't remember. I was an apple seller.
That is, that's bizarre, mate, I must say.
Yes. Well, we were people on the street, basically, through that whole show. Because when you see it performed, there's typically only about 8 cast members. So you have, obviously, Mr. Mushnick, Audrey, Seymour, and Oren. Yep, Oren Scrivello. You have the 4 leads. But the actor who plays Oren Scrivello will also play the smaller parts that are like Mr. Bernstein from NBC signed with our show during the Meek, Shell and Herrick.
Oh, really? Wow.
So he'll go off stage, change costume, come back on 3 times during that one song. Then obviously you have the 3, Chiffon, Crystal and Ronette. And then you'll have the voice of Audrey too. So there's no ensemble in this show. It's not a big show, but it can be done with an ensemble because you're on the street, so you can have ensembles. And Skid Row is downtown is a big song. And yeah, so that was a school production. That was fun. Again,
what I really admired about, as you were saying, what I really admire about the soundtrack of Little Shop of Horrors was, again, how easy it was to follow. It was kind of like reading a book through song, without actually having to read a book. And in order for me to listen to that soundtrack, I had to sort of sit back, pour a glass of the finest $6 Shiraz. Yep. And which says a lot, actually, because I normally only go for the $5 bottle. So,
well, hey, you really stepped up. That's good. I hope you put a shirt on and a tie.
Well, I had a singlet on, so I did a half-assed job.
That's a bogan shirt and a bogan tuxedo.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. That's correct, mate. Being a fan of something and admiring talent are 2 very different things to me.
And that's what our show's about, very much.
Yes, so, I really did admire Alan Menken's music how it tied in so well with Howard Ashman's lyrics, like I said. It was very descriptive, but not in a way that's hard to follow. And when I write lyrics for my band, I try to be very descriptive as well. So, some of my bandmates hate it. They're like, oh, you got to be a bit less descriptive. Stop telling too much of a story. And I'm like, well, that's just how I do things, So, at the end of the day, it was actually, I listened to the whole album and I was like, oh, I need to hear the ending. And, it was good listening.
The depressing ending.
So, you got me on that one, mate. I hate to feed your ego with musical theatre, but you got me there, mate. So that's a gold star for you.
Excellent. I think Little Shop is one show that straddles the line between having standalone songs but also telling the story, and it does it so perfectly and does it so concisely. There's no fluff, I don't think, in it.
Yes.
Some musicals, they have just so many unnecessary songs that don't enhance the story or aren't good enough to be standalone songs, whereas Suddenly Seymour...
Or they drag on a bit.
Yes. Suddenly Seymour, you can take out of context and still perform that as a duet because you get the story enough in the lyrics that, but it's also standalone that it doesn't rely on the rest of the show to exist, as well as the Dentist song. That can very much be a standalone
of course,
song.
Yes. And the Dentist song, I've got to pull you up on this one. Thank you so much for making me listen to that Dentist song literally an hour before I actually had to go to the dentist. As soon as I got to the dentist, I sat in that chair and I was looking at my dentist, not able to trust him. I was like, get the fuck away from me, mate. Yeah, I don't know what... Yeah, so that was hard.
This is a torture chamber podcast for a reason. So I went with my gut instinct, and lo and behold, my gut instinct was right.
Lo and behold.
So,
yes,
just as long as you didn't stop at the nursery on the way home.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that. I did not stop at the nursery on the way home from the dentist because I was in bloody agony. But a week before then, I did actually take my lovely girlfriend, Eliza Champion. Love you, babe, if you're listening.
Haven't seen her in 5 years either, so hello.
No, you haven't. No, you have not. But, I took her to Flower Power and she actually bought a little mini Venus flytrap.
Oh, wow. Fancy that. Don't, just whatever they offer you, do not feed the plants. So, on that note, we'll switch over to metal, I think, because I guess that's a success. You seem to have enjoyed that enough, and I really do want to see you play Oren Scrivello. Whether it's normal theatre or doing metal, you would be great in the part.
Yes.
You've got a lot of charisma.
I really do appreciate that, mate. I really do wish I had more negative things to say about Little Shop of Horrors, but no, you really did win me over with that one, so good on you, mate.
Oh. One negative is, Gareth, you're wrong. Again. Fancy that.
Oh, snap right there. Right in the nutsack.
Alright, we'll jump to a quick ad break to hear from our friends and sponsors. We'll be back in a moment.
Coming this summer, winter, spring, or fall, the first ever musical theatre sitcom, where you go behind the scenes of the latest West End show, the Fosse Forest Ballet.
Where's the important stuff? Aha! £1,000 a week ensemble rate. That's what Mamma Mia likes.
Starring Philip Joel and a West End cast featuring Kerry Ellis, Darren Day, Louise Demon, and Oliver Saville, and more.
It all started in 1987 when I was a jobbing actress working in a diner.
Yeah, it's just I had a really bad experience when I was touring Australia with a wombat.
Darling! Mwah, mwah. La, la. How long have I been mentoring you? 3 months?
2 years.
So her name is Henrietta.
The horse. Yes. I've managed to secure you an audition for the biggest, most innovative, and the latest show to be going into the West End. Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Think more along the lines of Panto.
Frozen.
You can watch this episode for the price of a coffee. Simply go to www.thefosseforestballet.com. Any and all profits go back to theatre charities, Acting for Others, and the Theatre's Trust. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll see a grown man in sparkly tights.
Tight nights. Nice. Tights.
We're back with Thrash and Treasure, the Torture Chamber musical podcast. I'm joined by Ryan Touzell. If you say it in French, it's always going to sound better.
Can you try and say it in French? It would be much better. Say it,
Touzell.
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 Yes.
You know what? That actually just sounds more Italian, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
We'll just go with Touzell.
Yeah, I French. Why did I go into Italian for? I don't know.
Thank you for doing your best.
That's right, I tried, as I do with everything. Right, so this week, I tried to listen to an album which you gave me. Would you like to tell our listeners what it was?
It was, Periphery II, this time it's personal. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I'll run through my review, because I did immerse myself in this music at least 12 times or so. On repeat over the week or so, because I apparently hate myself. So, when I first saw the band name, I thought, Periphery? Didn't I go to school with her? She grew up to be a stripper, right?
Wow.
Only to remember that Persephone was her name, and Periphery is a band. But periphery is also a word that means outer rim, and who doesn't love a good rimming? Anyways, upon my first listen, it became clear to me that Gareth isn't the only one with misguided taste in music. But again, a lack of taste doth not a lack in talent make, and I think what they need is some good grovel and gravitas to the lead's voice. He sounds a bit whiny, and I would know. My friends call me Whiny the Pooh. The music itself had its moments, some of cliche, been there, done that, heard the t-shirt, but I did find there was a fun, youthful, yet unique sound coming through, more frequently. The addition of guest violin and cello helped elevate their sound beyond whiny teenager. I reiterate, as musicians, they are highly talented. There were many times I'd hear a solid drum solo, and I was all like, cool machine guns, bro. But apart from some electrifying beats, the vocals were overshadowed by their above-standard lyrics that expressed the angst and discontentment of whiny teenage millennials. And no power on this earth will force me to listen to whiny teenage millennials. I'd rather stick a frog and bullfish up my vagina. The music really did stand out. There is some serious talent to be found, and a lot of moments where I raised an eyebrow from the direction the chords and melodies went, as it felt like the band weren't afraid to experiment, but sadly this applied to maybe 5 of the songs, leaving the rest to ride off the coattails of these stronger, sharper, more eclectic sounds. Their down-tempo Irised, which in backwards language translates as desire, was an easy listen, without the music losing any of their unique qualities. And it's clear to me that the emo crowd would go crazy, standing on the spot, barely nodding their heads in a visible sign of enthusiasm to this song, which also features a fairly progressive breakdown and guitar solo which highlights the talent I was able to hear in earlier songs. It's amazing what a lack of grrr, grrr, grrr can do to a song. Often in this music, I hear potential for more metal musos to dive into the world of theatrical or cinematic composition, and I would certainly love to play a video game scored by these guys. As for my score, 2.5, edged to a 3, but now I just want to go and bully whiny millennials into giving me their lunch money. And since I can't do that, 2.5. There was some interesting sounds in there, like sometimes I'd expect the bars or whatever it is, chords to go in a certain direction, but they would escalate down or something like that, or they were just, there was some interesting sounds in there.
It's funny that, yes, coming from someone who doesn't normally even listen to this type of music, you're not the first person in the metal scene to actually say that about Periphery when it comes to the whiny vocal. Even people who love Periphery normally complain about the, as they would say, whiny vocals. But I strongly disagree with that. I guess I just admire how he goes from, those ball dropping sort of low vocals into that high, like as if someone's grabbed his balls, into that high range
and anxiety
of singing. Yep, if that's what you want to call it.
Right, I say whiny in my review because I'm a bitch. Technically, professionally, serious me would say there is an anxiety in the voice.
Well, yeah, a yearning. But you see here, Aaron, most people who listen to Periphery have even said that they'd rather hear the band without any vocals at all.
Oh, have they?
And I strongly disagree with that, because if it weren't for the vocals, I don't think that band, I don't think it would be the band that it actually is without the vocals. They stand out because of the vocals, and
well, yeah, I haven't heard whiny teenager yet all through this. I've heard some emo through these episodes, right? But I haven't heard whiny teenager yet, so therefore that was a unique sound that I don't hear I haven't heard in other bands. But I can see why people agree with that. Take the vocals out, the music's better, because they are very, very talented musicians. But the vocals do complement that. They do, and they work together in that. If it was me, or if I was musical director, I probably wouldn't make some of the choices in the vocals that they've made. But it's not me. And it's not up to us at home to say, well, if it was me, I would.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. If you actually went and saw one of their live shows, I think that your opinion would actually be different.
Probably.
The diversity in the vocals and the progression of the music, it's very different. And I think that's the reason why this band stood out to me, and I think that's the reason why I love this band so much, is because they don't go by any certain style. They don't copy any certain genre. They do their own thing, and it's an ever-going story. It's not. I don't know half of what they're singing about sometimes, to be honest with you.
I know. Look, I'm 100% on that. I never know what any metal people are singing about.
Yeah.
So I nod and smile, but I did like some of the song titles. Obviously, I made a joke about Erised.
Is that how you pronounce it? Erised? I thought it was Arised. I think you're saying it wrong, Aaron.
Have you not seen or read Harry Potter?
I don't watch that kind of garbage.
Well, the mirror of Erised is the mirror of desire. Erised is desire backwards.
You know what? You might know something about Periphery that I don't.
Possibly.
Aaron.
Oh, wow! I come off looking smart for a change.
God, I'm feeding your ego hard.
Oh no, trust me, me looking smart does not feed my ego. It shocks me and unsettles me, and I need to sit down. Oh, I am sitting down. Anyways, no.
But you know what? I admire the fact, actually, that you actually sat through Periphery II's album, however many times you listened to it. That's admirable.
Yep. A lot more than I listened to Stuck Mojo, let's just say that.
Yes. Well, some of their songs actually go way longer than you'd think,
Yeah,
a couple of songs that go that are pushing 6 minutes.
But there was progression in the music. Like Erised, I think it is, that has a breakdown. And it's not just a middling... No. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't just...
It's beautiful.
Have the same sound. Yeah, it is. And then it progresses and gets back into the song. There was a lot of choices they made in terms of the direction. I've said it before, that I really did admire that. I would like to hear these guys score a video game.
You know what? It's actually funny that you say that, Aaron, because they did a music video in the setting of a video game.
Well, there you go.
So you know what? Yeah, there you go. That was in a different album, but so I don't want to bore you with that. So
No, that's fine. I typically won't listen to a band's outside work apart from the album I'm forced to listen to. Because then if I do love an album so much, like I did with Body Count's Carnival, then it's a natural thing of I want to hear more of their stuff.
Yes.
So, and also I won't get confused by all their other songs. I can just focus on that one album. So I'm probably lucky that song wasn't on here, because like that was very clear to me. A lot of times that an independent, it doesn't even have to be an action, shoot 'em up game. It could be one of these independent type stories that has a deep mystery behind it or something like that. And their music would play fantastically behind that. And I could be saying this because I was building roller coasters on Planet Coaster while I was listening to their music. So therefore I already was. But that's not really the type of game that I'm walking around or anything. I'm literally building roller coasters and then riding them. And then moving on to build another roller coaster and ride that one. So it's not the same, but there's that Life is Strange. Those games, that's the type of game that I'd say Periphery's music juxtaposed against. Very much so.
I suppose the reason I enjoy their music so much is, like I said, the way they stand out, I guess. They're not as generic or, as the rest of them, Most of the metal bands I listen to, honestly, if I'm to be totally honest with you, I don't even listen to that much metal anymore myself. I've got the select few. I play metal because I enjoy performing it. I enjoy singing it because I can. It's just an ability that I have. But when it comes to listening to it, you've got more chance of finding me listening to more acoustic music or more slowed down, stripped back music than you will finding me listening to metal, which is interesting. So
I think you'll find that's pretty common. Like a lot of musicians who play a certain type of music will not listen to that type of music because they're immersed in it so often as a job to be paid for.
That's it.
It's like a good way to put it is RuPaul, you're not going to catch him in drag in general because he's not getting paid for it, right? That's his job. I mean, he'll enjoy the scene and enjoy other people's performances, but he's not sitting around his house in a dress. That's just not what he does. So, or maybe gynecologists spend all day, diving into one area, and then I'll cut that joke out there because.
Okay. Oh, great.
But also artists, they do like to explore other genres because it helps feed what they do. It helps inspire what they do, and they will hear. A lot of times you'll hear maybe a metal musician or whatnot, or even a pop singer put out a cover of a rock song or something like that, or the other way around. A metal singer like Floor Jansen posts a lot of performances of her singing theatre songs, singing Phantom of the Opera and Frozen and stuff like that she'll post on her Twitter. And I would wager that diving into that music and exploring that, and I know that's obviously my genre, but just to separate myself, using it as an example, I would suggest that her diving into the world of theatre is helping her musicality and her her writing or whatnot in the metal world, because she is exploring those other genres and other sounds and stuff. And it's easy to say that musical theatre is a genre, but there are so many genres within that. Because there are country and western musicals, there's a rap musical, there's rock musicals, there's opera, and you know what I mean? Like it's very much a blanket term.
It's everlasting, yeah. It's never ending, yeah.
It is, and which is kind of why we've got this show, because my theory is that metal is socially acceptable opera. You have the tragedy, you have the drama, you have the epic music and the epic vocals.
Let's face it, most people get turned off as soon as the screaming comes in. They're like, oh, what is this? I can't understand this.
And most people get turned off as soon as opera starts.
That's it.
Yep.
Exactly, you know.
But more people will socially accept metal or heavy metal because of look at bands like AC/DC and Metallica that have seeped into the mainstream.
On repeat, every day.
Whereas you're not turning on the radio and hearing opera unless you're tuning into SBS radio or something like that. The classic AM radio. You're not hearing it on FM. You're not hearing it on the charts or anything. But you will hear Metallica and AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and all that. But there are so many parallels between the two worlds in a lot of ways that's really what this show's about. So on that self-congratulatory note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment with Ryan Touzell. G'day listeners, Aaron here. While me and Gareth are taking a break, I thought now would be a great time to spill my guts. Well, not my guts, the fully fabulous Kristen Johnston's, whose hilarious yet harrowing memoir, Guts, details her roller coaster ride through all the excesses of Hollywood and the toll it can take on even the fiercest of bitches. Keijo has shed all pretense by opening up her heart and soul in this gripping tale, which will leave readers reaffirmed of their own inner strength and ability to kick some ass in this world. You may know her as Sally Solomon, or as Joan Collins' bedrockian daughter, but once you've dived into Kristen's guts, you'll come to know that she's nothing short of a warrior. Available now where all good books are sold, grab your copy of Guts today. Did you start the band?
Well, actually, it's a pretty funny story. I did start the band back in 2008. I started a band which I called Thoughts Under Fire, which is a pretty cringy name, I know, but
yes, I'll agree.
Younger back then, but I was just starting out, and I was running the band for a bit, and I brought a lot of members in, and we went through a lot of members as well. I ended up going through a bit of a rough patch around 2010, and
you lost your direction a little bit.
I lost my direction. Yes.
Yeah.
No, so the band was taken over, and then I was out for about a year and a half, I think, and then I was asked to rejoin, and I came back to the band, and we took on a new style of music, and then we changed our name to Brave Today, and I think what got me into metal was ever since I had my first MP3 player. Remember ththose little... I had a Zune.
You had a Zune. You and Peter Quill.
Yeah, I had a Zune. It wasn't quite... Everyone else had the iPods. I had a Zune.
Oh, no, I didn't.
No?
I had some cheap Chinese brand that I got from the $2 shop, so...
Oh, well, there you go. I think my Zune could only hold about, 10 songs on it? Or something like that. I don't know, a very small amount of songs.
Yeah.
And I think I had a song by Usher, a song by Nickelback.
Oh, Godfathers.
A song by... Yeah, that's right.
You heard that, folks. That is staying in the episode. That is forever going down in history.
That is going down in history.
So when you guys are huge, everyone's going to know. And
look, I'm not following this stupid trend that people are going on about with, Nickelback being the shittest band in the world. They're one of the greatest in the world, Aaron. And you got to move past that trend, mate. They sell out more stadiums than most bands do per year.
Are they?
And they've sold more, platinum, golden albums, whatever you want to call them, than a lot of bands have. They're a very successful band. And they've had some great music, man. Let's not deny that.
Have they?
Yeah, of course they have.
I will take your word for it.
You should take my word for it. You should spend tonight, sit down with a glass of wine in front of your fireplace or whatever, and listen to some Nickelback, because, you're not going to regret it, mate. It's going to be a good option for you.
Gareth will be mortified to hear that his replacement is saying this.
Yeah. I like your pants around your feet. Yeah, go listen to some Nickelback, mate. I think that... No, but in all seriousness, mate, I think it was bands like Nickelback, surprisingly enough, and Disturbed that actually got me into metal music. And I don't know why, I don't know how, but that's what happened. And then from that day, I started off writing like pop songs and acoustic songs, and then there was one day I was really angry, and I wrote a song, I think it was called Streetlights, that I called it. And I started screaming into the microphone. And from there, I discovered that I had a weird, ugly Cookie Monster type sounding scream that people seemed to like. So I sort of just worked with that for a while, and yeah.
Stella found her groove.
I found my groove, and that's what became Brave Today, I guess, in the end.
You're saying about experimenting it in terms of your vocals in metal. Now, when I listen to metal vocalists, I get a sympathetic pregnancy, especially the unclean vocals. And that is...
Did you just say sympathetic pregnancy?
Yes, my throat hurts for them.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
It's like when I see someone getting punched in the nose, my eyes water because anything about the nose, I get terrible sinuses or whatever and reflexes and my eyes start to water.
Yes.
So... Or when I see someone fall over on concrete, I'm like, oh no, that hurts, I can feel it. Because I know what it feels like myself, but I get that sympathetic pain from listening to metal singers. So what's your method in terms of not killing your voice before a live show? Is there anything? Because I know in theatre, obviously, we have our vocal warm-ups and we have our lemon and honey drinks that taste like shit.
I mean... Gotta be honest, mate. I never really got proper vocal tuition when I started screaming. I kind of just was. I was always really good at mimicking other sort of artists that I used to listen to as a kid. It's like when I started playing the piano. I never got piano lessons. You know, one of my favorite movies is Jurassic Park. I'm sure you know that one.
Yeah.
And when I heard the Jurassic Park theme, there was a piano in front of me. And I just started sort of playing the keys along with the song until I got it right. And I did the same thing with my voice, you know. I was listening to certain artists, and for a few years I was always like, oh man, I wish I could scream like these guys, you know. Like, what do I have to do to get that ability, you know? It just sort of came naturally after recording multiple songs and a couple of albums, you know. I started off screaming and it sounded terrible, but the more that I did it, I started to gain more control. And it's really actually hard to explain, you know. I went from using my head voice to using my sort of diaphragm and it's kind of strange because there is no actual instructions that I learned. There wasn't any proper way that I learned. You know, I've gotten vocal lessons for clean singing, but I've never actually gotten any lessons for screaming. It just sort of came naturally, to be honest with you. It just all came from emotion. That sounds very emo. It sounds a bit emo. Sounds very emotional.
It does.
Like, yes. I've got a lot of heaped up, sort of bottled up emotions there that I just let out. And that's how, that's kind of how it happened. So,
yeah. So is there a certain spot in your throat that it needs to sit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a spot where everything sits, and I sort of let out I let out bits of air where necessary. If there's any advice I can give to anyone that's listening, take a deep breath in, and as you're breathing out, just start screaming, as if someone's just stepped on your foot or on your pinky toe, right? As you're breathing out. And then, that might start something. That probably doesn't. You're trying it right now, aren't you? But yet I haven't heard you speak.
No, because I tried to take a big deep breath in and I'm like, oh god, I could only take a tiny breath. I'm not even going to try this.
Yeah, no, maybe that's bad advice for some people, especially anyone out there who has breathing difficulties. Don't do that. I don't know, it just came naturally, honestly.
I would love to hear what else you've got in your arsenal. Wait, hang on, that's probably the wrong word. What else you got in your tool bag? Tool bag? Toolbox.
Well, I've got a lot up my ass right now, that's for sure.
It was arsenal. It was in like... You know what I meant. The people at home know what I meant.
Yes, no. I know what you mean, mate. And, well, that's the thing. To be honest, I spend a lot of my time working on my side projects. I do a lot of acoustic music and a lot of piano-based music.
Yeah.
Yes, it's something I do on the side, and my heart goes into that, like, pretty heavily. So, like, metal is a lot of fun. I love performing metal. And I love to get up there on stage and just sort of let out what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And that's one of the reasons why I love metal so much. Because it's like, you can get up on a stage and scream your absolute arse off at people. And you don't have to have a reason why, you know? No one's going to come up to you and say, "Hey, why are you doing this?" It's what, I can get away with it when I'm on that stage. I can do whatever I want, and that really does help me mentally, because I deal with a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression, and that really does weigh me down. It holds me back as well, and it halts all of my motivation. Every time I know that there's a gig, like a show coming up that we're about to perform, I spend like the weeks before that show feeling really anxious about it. But and that is a bit of a setback, It does, I get very anxious, sort of, but once I'm on that stage, it all changes. It turns from anxiety to excitement, and I can just release myself and just let out all of that bottled up anger and emotion that's inside of me. And that's why I love metal, because it's a good release. It's a good escape. So, you know what I mean?
We had Dave Muscat recently on the show from the West End, was talking about doing Billy Elliot on stage, obviously, and how the show, if they were feeling happy that day, right, they could go on stage and find things in the show that made them even happier, and they could express that joy. If they were feeling shitty, there were things in the show that they could really accentuate, and the anger and, the fights and stuff like that. So I'd imagine performing metal would be the same, that if you're feeling, really good and happy one day, that's going to show through in the music. You're going to find certain parts in certain songs that will be able to express that joy.
Well, that's it.
Just naturally through your performance, and then other times when you're angry or feeling shitty, able to channel that into certain heavier, darker moments. In that, I would find that quite cathartic. I'm sure. Humans are complicated creatures as it is, so for artists to have these outlets. And look, being a writer, it's not necessarily the same, because I'm not standing there expressing with my body and my voice how I'm feeling or what's going on, or the story that I'm telling. It's me tapping on the keys. So I'm not channeling that in any way, in terms of... Well, I will get up and dance and stuff like that, and channel my excitement, but no, in terms of, it must be very cathartic for metal musicians, I think, in particular, as opposed to, say, pop, which is pretty all happy. And if you're feeling shitty, who wants to go out and sing a happy pop song?
Well, that's it. But then again, a lot of pop music is actually, when you actually read the lyrics, you're like, oh shit, that's not as happy as I thought it would be. It's very...
Yeah, there are some dark songs, aren't there?
Yeah, that's it. Whereas most of our music is trying to be more positive. Like, it's a lot of the lyrics that I write about is more to do with, say, someone who's dealing with really severe mental issues, who's trying to get out of that, and just trying to grow and live a better life and deal with those mental issues, or somebody who's dealing with addiction. It's most of my lyrics aren't more around anger and stuff like that, which most people think metal is based on.
Oh yeah, it's Satan music, full stop.
Well, that's it, exactly. And that's the thing, it's a great release, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy that kind of style. Apparently it helps a lot of people who like our music. It helps them through a lot of stuff, and that's what keeps me sort of glued to this style of music, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Well, a lot more expressive than pop in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, it's very expressive. It's very expressive, but it's a love or hate relationship. I mean. Yeah, that's it.
Tell us about your first gig. When you got up, first time ever.
Well, our first gig was actually one of our most successful ones, which is funny. We were releasing music for about 2 years before we played our first show, and we had a lot of hype. Hype was there was a lot of hype building up. People were like, are these guys actually going to play a show? Or, what's going on? And eventually, in 2010, we played our first show at Southgate in the Sutherland Shire. It was, oh God, you know what? The name of the actual venue escapes me right now. But we packed out the whole venue. And we made about $750 from that gig, which is the most money we've made from most of our shows.
For a first gig?
Funnily enough.
I'm sure it must, you must have felt like you had the world at your fingertips after that. Yeah.
I thought so at the time, yeah. But at that time as well, I had nodulitis. Oh, nodules.
Oh, bugger.
So my throat, my throat was totally blown out. And I was falling for everyone's bullshit home remedies to fix the throat. Like, some woman told me, put a dirty sock around your throat and tie a knot, and the pheromones from the sock works as a natural treatment for your throat.
Oh my goodness gracious me. Now, that is a choice.
For some stupid reason.
That is definitely a choice.
For some stupid reason, I believed what she said. And I tied a dirty sock around my neck an hour before our show while drinking a bottle of honey.
Goodness gracious me. Yeah, nodules aren't good for a singer.
No, and I was worried that I had them like permanently. But I had them for about 6 months, and then I sort of self-healed. I took a big break from doing vocals, and I started. I was like, well, shit. If I'm going to do these kind of vocals, then I need to learn at least a little bit of how to use the throat. Back onto what we were talking about before. Yep. Yeah. So
find that comfort spot.
Yeah, that's it. And of course, it was our first gig, so there were a lot more nerves. I had a lot more. I was a lot more nervous because after spending years playing in your bedroom and recording songs in a studio, and then going on stage and performing in front of a packed out venue, it's a bit different. So I kind of just threw my voice out, too much. I put too much, I threw out way too much, without any control whatsoever. And, I lost my voice entirely.
Amateurs need to realise you might be talented at something, the kids at home, but still learn. Yeah. Still learn how to do it properly. Or you will fuck up your voice, or you will fuck up your body, or whatnot, because you're not doing it right.
That's it. Sometimes I don't even know.
It's all good and well to say, well, I'm a natural singer, sure. But are you singing through your diaphragm? Because I can see your shoulders all the way up.
Even today, mate, we played it.
I'm not talking about you there, obviously.
No, that's fine. We played a show recently. It was a COVID safe show. Yep. So everyone who was at the venue were wearing masks. And they were forced to be seated, and it was very odd. It was fruitless. It was a very fruitless show because there was no energy there, right? Yeah. Even to this day, like when I realized that I was up on stage singing to these people who were all seated wearing masks, I was like, oh my God, how do I handle this situation? Tried running up in front of the crowd's face and like screaming at them and trying to get them to respond to me. Because that really does feed the singer and everyone in the band. Like, when you have the audience standing up and, sort of cheering or whatever, or, just, it helps. But in this case...
That energy from the audience feeds you guys just as much as you guys are feeding the
in this case, every time someone went to stand up, a security guard would run up and be like, no, sit the fuck down.
Oh, no.
But it ruined my voice, so I started throwing my voice out there without any control, and I just started losing my voice. I've got my good days and my bad days. At the end of the day, if you're going to do metal, make sure it comes from the heart, I guess, or...
And wait until after COVID, because apparently metal and COVID-safe shows do not mix. It would work in a jazz venue, like a jazz concert or something.
Actually, funny story there. When we got onto stage, the sound guy came up and put a little protective pop filter onto the microphone. I was just like, "What's this for?" And he's like, "Oh, just COVID restrictions." we're going to have to use this. And I was like, okay. And after doing our 45-minute long set, screaming into that microphone, that little filter was covered in my spit, right? And I pulled it off the microphone at the end of our set, and I scrunched it up in my hands. And I went to put it in my pocket, because I was like, well, no one's going to use this. It's covered in my saliva. And then the sound guy comes up to me and goes, oh, no, I'll take that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, this is covered in my saliva. And he's like, that's okay. I'll just spray it with some disinfectant so the next band can use it.
That's defeating the purpose.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? You can't... Don't you have more... Yeah, I'm like, don't you have more of those things, like, in a box somewhere? Like...
What was it, a bit of Glad wrap or something? Like, shit.
So he took... He just put his hand out and just said, just drop it in my hand. And I dropped this scrumbled up filter covered in saliva and sweat onto his hand. And he just, like a squeegee, you know, he just squeezed it over a bin so all the sweat dripped out of it and then sprayed it with disinfectant.
Godfather.
And then put it on the microphone for the next band.
That's not good.
COVID safe, right?
Yeah.
A load of bullshit.
I know, like... But I think that might be the individual. Like, that might be him. He's probably supposed to
maybe
chuck it away straight away. But he's... You know what I mean? Like,
that's it.
I can't imagine the company would be like, yes, we want all our musicians to share this fucking sweaty, sloppy piece of shit that people have been spitting on. Like, that seems to me like that would be bad PR for the company or the venue. But it does seem more like the individual being lazy. In my opinion, I don't know. I wasn't there, obviously, but no, that's really, really weird.
Yeah, and you know, they even say they're like, you're not allowed to sing along to the band that's playing if you're at a live show, but you can yell out to your mates who are across the room, but you can't sing along to the music.
That's bullshit. That's a ridiculous thing. There are so many of these rules that I understand and I agree with, right? And I'll accept even if I don't necessarily agree with them because it's just what has to be done. Of course. But that seems to me like nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sing along.
It is a bit nonsense.
I sat there during that whole musical for 100 minutes and sang every single bloody word along with them, quietly to myself.
We'll see.
Not out.
Quietly to yourself.
No one heard it. Like, I was mouthing the words. I wasn't actually saying them. If you were to look at me...
I doubt a security guard's going to come up. Yeah, I doubt a security guard's going to come up and be like, mate, stop singing quietly to yourself.
Yeah.
Spreading the germs.
They would have liked to have tried, because we were in the middle, so we had like 20 people on either side of us, or however many, 10 people on either side, so that would have been a tight squeeze for them, and good luck. But if anyone had have looked over at me during that performance, my jaw and you would have seen my Adam's apple moving the whole time because I could not help myself but sing along to every single word, and even bits of dialogue I was saying, I was speaking to. I'd seen it before, so I'm fairly familiar with it. But yeah, like I couldn't imagine, like, had someone come up to me and said, no, you can't sing along, I would have looked up at them with my mask on and told them to fuck off in a way that they wouldn't have heard or seen.
Well, that's it, mate. Like, even again, when we were on stage performing, even between songs. Normally in between songs I like to interact with the crowd, right? But because they were all forced to be seated wearing masks, it's like they weren't even clapping or cheering. And then I was like, in my head I was like, could this have something to do with us specifically? Is that why they're not cheering? So then I thought of, I decided to say to the crowd, let's hear it for the headlining band. Because in my head I was like, well, let's see if they cheer for the headlining band. You know? And they didn't cheer at all. Like, it was like a ball of hay rolled past in front of me.
And a wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's it. And, you know...
that would have been so embarrassing. I'm glad it was you.
Oh, mate, it really was. But then at the end of the set, you have all these people coming up going, mate, that was a really great set. That was really good. And I'm like, I can't even tell your emotions right now because of the mask that they're wearing, and oh god, it was just It's not the same as it used to be. I think I'd rather just wait it out until this whole virus ends, so we can start playing real shows again. But
it'd be like a DJ. A DJ having a COVID-safe set. Why are you having a COVID-safe set, DJ? No one's getting up to dance.
Yeah, imagine just that. Play. A DJ playing a COVID set. Yeah. Everyone's sitting there with their arms folded with some DJ on the stage, like scratching discs, like just scratching vinyls. It just doesn't work, you know?
No, it does not work because the energy is not there. The
exactly.
vibe and the party atmosphere is just gone, and it is a shame. Like it does suck.
100%.
But I guess this is a time when jazz musicians are able to stand up and entertain us because we can sit back at our tables and nod our head along to the music, and we don't have to get up and dance or anything like that. So let's let jazz musicians have their heyday again, because they haven't had their heyday in 100 years or so. So it's about time, But no, it does suck. I would have loved to have been there, just to have watched this disaster unfold.
I'll send you some footage. We've got footage. I'll send it to you, mate.
Oh, please do. Fantastic.
But no, in saying all that, I shouldn't complain because it's lucky that we get any shows at all during this time. There are a lot of bands out there that aren't getting any shows, and they're suffering for it. The music industry is suffering, and my heart goes out to all of them.
Yes, everyone.
So I should feel lucky that we've gotten shows. We've got a couple more coming up in Brisbane in March. Oh, sorry, April. And so we got a few shows coming up, and we're lucky that we've got those shows. So, even if people are forced to wear masks and sit down, that's okay.
Work with what you've
got. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it, mate. Yeah.
And look, at least you're grateful about it and not arrogant, like, oh, it's about time, like, we deserve this, like, you know what I mean? That you can appreciate that you guys are lucky to have gotten this, because you are right, there are so many out there.
They're suffering, that
are struggling at the moment, or are having to improvise, let's just say, their productions or whatnot, to or, do it online, or maybe they had an album coming out last year and they need video clips for it, so the production values are a little bit down because they've had to improvise. It's a real testament to artists. I think that when you look at all the industries, maybe not necessarily actors and writers, filmmakers or whatnot, but sort of a lot of artists have really stepped up to the plate in terms of they're in this position, they're no longer able to have their audience, but they still want to entertain their audience. So they've been doing new things that they wouldn't normally have done. Maybe like Josh Gad did his reunion series with all those movies, or there was the Ratatouille musical that they did on TikTok. So there's it has, as someone said recently, necessity has been the mother of invention, but it's also been the mother of creation here, and creativity, because it's kept us all on our toes, and artists need to adapt, right? I personally, and I love that you don't pigeonhole yourself into metal, because I do love it when you see people from two genres get together and do a song that's completely out of their genre or what. Look at Kylie Minogue and Nick Cave when they did
the... Oh, yes. Yep, I do actually remember that. Yeah.
That's not a Kylie Minogue song, but it's a Kylie Minogue song. It's one of her most popular hits. It was a crossover hit into the world of rock as well.
That's the thing. That's the thing, mate. I'm a big softie. You'd be surprised by some of the music that I actually listen to. Metal is just a bonus, and like I said, a great escape. a good release of emotion.
Because obviously, as we're talking about with COVID and the past year, and gigs being shut off or shut down, that artists have been on a wandering path, and
that's right.
As I say, some people have found new paths, or some people have expanded on what they already know. Some people have created projects that they probably thought they would never have done before because they didn't have the time. They were always contracted here, there, and everything else. Always had a gig somewhere else, so they didn't have the time to sit down, compose themselves, and say, okay, where do I want to go next, or what do I want to showcase to the world, or what ideas do I have, and so I think you're very, very lucky because you're young, very, very talented, and not only that, you're getting to still play gigs during this time, and not only, but I'm so glad to hear that you are experimenting and learning and stuff. Like, that's been a through line for me, is when I comment on bands experimenting or changing this, not necessarily changing their sound, but showing growth and progression.
Exactly. That's why as soon as you invited me onto this show, I was like, oh shit, I might be in a bit of trouble because, he's going to give me a Broadway musical to listen to and review, and I don't think I'm going to find anything wrong with it. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk any negative shit on it.
Yeah.
If anything, you've actually gotten me into something totally different that I don't normally listen to. So
awesome.
Good on you.
Hey,
thank you.
That's what this show is about, and it's not necessarily that we come on here to hate things. That's not what this show is about. It is not easy being tortured by the same CD 20 times in a week.
Yep.
That's not easy, for one thing. So that's going to spark up sassy jokes and stuff like that. But it's about honesty. But it's also about being open-minded, that you're not going into something with a chip on her shoulder. There are so many people who would immediately like, I couldn't do a podcast like that, because they wouldn't allow themselves to open their mind to that other world, and that ain't cool.
Exactly.
That's not what music is about.
It's not what music's about. Like I said,
you
would not catch me dead going to an actual Broadway musical. I mean, unless of course I was walking across Broadway in New York City, wasted off my head, screaming out "When in Rome." But it's listening to the soundtracks and hearing a good story in the majesty of song. That was great. I loved it. I loved every second of it. So
it seems you had a better time with Little Shop than I did with
I didn't expect you to have the best time, put it that way.
Well, no, but I also didn't have the worst time, because I could see that experimentation in their sound, that uniqueness.
Yeah, of course.
But, there was some sounds that some songs
yes.
I didn't quite, couldn't quite cling to, if you will. But I really am excited to see and hear what you're going to come up with in the future, because, every artist, not just you personally, but every artist, because you've all had the time to explore and experiment and think, most importantly, think up new ideas in the past year. So I think the world of music and art and all that is going to be quite exciting in the next few years, because there will be, I reckon, a rejuvenation from people, that they can finally go to gigs and can finally stand there and sing along.
I think we're facing big changes, especially with live shows and all that. I think we might be facing some big changes. I'm not sure what those changes are going to be, but,
there'll be a glass, a plastic, what's it called?
Yeah, a glass wall or a plastic wall or a bubble. Everyone's going to be in bubbles or some shit like that. Who knows, mate? But, that's it.
In front of the stage.
But no, it is exciting, and I'm very keen. We've got our next release coming out, hopefully in March, actually. So, yeah.
In March.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes, well, we're going to have you guys on with a whole band, and I've been requested to roast you guys. I've shit stirred a lot of people in my life, right? A lot of people.
Roast away, my friend. I love a good
But when
roasting.
you said to me, we look forward to you roasting us, I was like, oh shit, it's just gotten real. Like, I have to now perform. I can't just be sassy bitchy me. Like, these jokes not only have to be funny and cutting, but they cannot be offensive or nasty in any way. You know what I mean? Because obviously you and I are mates.
Of course.
But you're entrusting me to do this for you, or to make fun of you guys in a respectful way. And that's a bit of pressure. I've never done that before, and as I say, I can shit stir yous all till the cows come home, and I will constantly do it just because it makes me laugh. I need to entertain myself, but that's me improvising on the go. That's not me sitting down writing jokes that are, and especially like I know you, but I don't know your bandmates as well.
They've got a heart of gold, and they love a good roasting themselves. Trust me.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'll look forward to that.
That sounds good to me, mate. Yes.
And that's been our show for this week. Special thanks to Ryan Touzell for joining me in Gareth's place. He'll be joining us again soon with the boys from Brave Today, so be sure to check out their music on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and also follow them on Facebook. And if you're in the Sydney, Sutherland Shire, I don't know that area, bloody hell, I'm from Melbourne. If you're in New South Wales and you see them playing, go check them out, because Ryan's an awesome guy, so give him a high five from me and go up to him and tell him that ship was not moving. Anyways, Gareth, what did you think of this week's episode?
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, yeah, as usual. Shit. Nah, I'm just kidding. Next week he'll be back, and he will be lucky because he gets 2 fully sick bitches for the price of none. That's right, we are joined by Australia's #1 feminist, the kick-ass Jane Caro, one of my favourite people, and she's chosen Into the Woods for Gareth to be tortured by. We tried Sondheim a couple of times. 1 success, 1 failure. Let's roll the dice again and see how we go as we take a journey into those woods. Oh my god, I sound like a wanker. Anyways, Gareth has given me, I think it's Red Devil Foreskin or something like that. Nope. Devil Skin with their album Red, so I look forward to giving that a go, I guess. I've been Aaron, this has been Thrash and Treasure. Thanks again to Ryan, and we shall see you next time. Hooroo!